Good afternoon, good morning, good night, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I welcome you to our ISTA Centenary webinar session. Today, we are having 4 guests here on new technologies, 4 presentations for the next 45 minutes. So I want to keep it short. First of all, if you have questions, we will be able to answer them. Please put them in the question and answer box. There is a question and answer box in the control panel, and you can ask questions there. And this webinar is recorded. It will be later on the ISTA YouTube channel, and it is available there in a few days to look at it again. Thank you for joining, and we want to go ahead right away. I welcome our colleague Craig McGill, who was our previous president and now member of the executive committee and liaison officer also for advanced technologies. And I would like to welcome you and hand over to Craig for his introductory presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen. Thank you, Andreas, for that introduction. So what I would like to do is give you a brief overview of technologies within ISTA, the approaches that ISTA is taking, and some of the future prospects for new technologies within ISTA. But first, let me begin with a little bit of history. ISTA began in 1924 with methods for purity and germination, but throughout its history, it has always introduced completely new or modifications of methods in response to changing needs for seed testing. While these new innovations have not always involved technologies, some of them have. For example, the use of X-ray for identification of damaged seeds and infested seeds, which was developed and accepted in the 1980s, does of course involve X-ray technology. But regardless, all these testing approaches have needed to meet the requirement that the scientific principles underpinning them are valid for seed testing and that they are being introduced.
If you are on the next slide, we can only see the first one.
I'm sorry. That they have been needed for seed testing. Of course, ISTA has also taken new approaches to testing, for example, in regard to DNA-based methods for verification of species in cultivar in Chapter 8, and GMO testing, where the approach of performance-based methods was introduced. Regardless of this history, it's likely that in the future, many of the future innovations in seed testing will come through technology. So just a brief overview of ISTA's approach to technology. Of course, from ISTA's perspective, the aim of using technology is to facilitate the use of technologies for seed testing where they are fit for purpose. And I think where they are fit for purpose is a theme that will run through this presentation in terms of technologies and their use for seed quality assurance. So what approaches have we taken to date to facilitate the use of technologies? What approaches has ISTA taken? First of all, there is a policy statement in the rules to make it clear that use of new technologies within the rules, whether they are the basis of new methods or new tests within existing methods, provided they meet the ISTA method validation program, which we'll talk about in a minute, meet the requirements of that program, they are acceptable. As many of you will be aware, the ability to issue ISTA seed analysis certificate is dependent on accreditation of those laboratories undertaking those tests. So what has also happened is there has been the alignment of the ISTA accreditation standard with the policy around new technologies. So that's include alignment of staff requirements, documents and records, quality control procedures and proficiency testing. So the accreditation standard has been updated to facilitate the use of new technologies. And ISTA has also introduced a policy on the use of new technologies equivalent to the human analyst, which I will talk about just before we finish this presentation. So why is there a need for new technologies? For many seed lots, prior to the shipping of the seed lots, the ISTA seed analysis certificate is required. Delays in the testing and therefore the issuing of that certificate can result in delays in shipping and planting. So the opportunity that new technologies provides for faster throughput is one of the potential uses or potential advantages for new technologies. The role of the seed analyst is highly skilled. For example, for a seed analyst to be completely, or to be at least proficient in seed identification for the particular species that they're primarily dealing with, and the potential other species within that purity, may take 2 to 3 years. So it can be time consuming. Some technologies offer the potential for shortening up not the training time, but increasing the time, decreasing the time when the analyst can in fact work through the purity with the support of the technologies. Some technologies are expensive at the moment, but with greater use, they may become more cost effective. And of course, that will also depend on the volume of use within a particular laboratory. Potential for automation is another potential advantage for the new technologies. Changes and improvement in breeding and seed technology may also drive the need for new technologies. For some tests, such as seed health testing, new technologies may allow lower detection limits. And the last point, but a very important point, is that we need to be attracting new people into seed testing, and some of the tests are time consuming. The new technologies, if they can speed up the test, may in fact also have the advantage of helping attracting new people into seed testing. The point of this slide is just to give you a brief indication of how complicated or the ISTA method validation process is. The process itself is relatively simple, but the steps required is a large number of steps. So this point of the slide is not to teach you what the method validation in ISTA is. If you are interested in that, the specific details, there is a link to the ISTA website where the method validation program is. Nonetheless, it's important to note that the method validation process within ISTA is open and robust. It's designed to ensure that, as I mentioned earlier, the method or the test that's introduced is fit for purpose through the method validation process. The method validation process involves the technical committee or committees for whom the test or method being introduced is relevant, but also the statistics committee to ensure the robustness of the test plan developed, the robustness of the test plan when it's implemented, and the robustness of the method validation report when it is completed. So how does method validation and ISTA, what are the implications for that for new technologies? Essentially, as I mentioned in an earlier slide, there are two possibilities. Technologies equivalent to the human analyst. In that case, method validation is not required, but the technology must be verified as fit for purpose. So just as within the accreditation process, within the accreditation standard, we require valid verification that the human analyst is competent to undertake the particular work that they are doing. That same applies to technologies. So that will involve checking and monitoring of the performance of the technology. If needed, training of the technology. If the process is completely automated, then supervision of that technology. And of course, if the technology involves both an analyst and the technology, then supervision of both. And Any equipment that is related to that technology as part of the accreditation standard must be uniquely identified. Where technologies are not considered to be equivalent to the human analyst, then method validation is required, and that method validation process, which I briefly outlined in the previous slide, will need to be followed. So in conclusion, I think it's fair to say that technologies offer the possibilities of speed, automation, and potentially cost effectiveness for the issuing of the international certificates. But I think it's important too, when we're thinking about technologies, to understand that it is unlikely that they will replace the needs for analysts completely in the near future. My view would be that there will still be a need for analysts for a long time, but with these new technologies, what we should be aiming to do is support the work of the seed analysts in terms of some of the needs, the advantages that I discussed earlier. So with that, thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Craig. That was a nice introduction. Just to remember everybody, because there were questions coming around, you can watch the whole session on the ISTA YouTube channel in a few days. For the centenary work, we don't have the presentations on the website. We didn't do that from the beginning. We have that for other webinars and for the ISTA ISSS webinars. So next on line should be Wilson Hugo. Wilson is joining us from FAO and ISTA. He is there in that group for a lot of years, very great experience, and currently he's on holidays. So thank you for joining us from your holidays, and welcome, Wilson. The floor is yours. I cannot hear you, Wilson. It sounds to me as you are muted in the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. It was impossible for me to unmute it. It was centrally managed. Thank you, Andreas. I will share my screen now. Let me know if you see it.
Perfect.
Can you?
Perfect.
Can you? Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, ready to begin. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I will highlight the work that FAO and ISTA have been doing together and the impact of that work together. As everybody in the audience surely knows, there are no good groups without good seeds, and surely everybody has heard that the world is facing many challenges today. We have a population increase. We have the amount of arable land stable or decreasing due to erosion. We have still 800 million people going hungry or having malnutrition in the world. And I will try to put some numbers into that in order to begin to highlight the task and the importance of the joint work between FAO and ISTA. We have today an unprecedented confluence pressure every single day. Every single day, agriculture produces, sorry, are you seeing my screen? Yes. 23 to 24 million tons of food. That is about 20 million tons of cereals, fruits, vegetables, more than 1 million tons of meats, more than 2 billion liters of milk, and you can read that. That is every single day. Every day, 7.4 trillion liters of water are used for irrigation, and all those tons of fertilizer being used. A part of that, agriculture employs about 1/3 of the world workers. That means we have huge challenges in our planet today. As I mentioned, population keeps increasing. Crops need to increase productivity. As I mentioned before, the amount of arable land is stable. And it is expected that about 50% of the need of an increase in production will come from genetic aspects and quality of seeds. And that has to be sustainable and has to be done with conservation agriculture. And in that sense, having a well-organized and efficient seed system is fundamental. FAO response to that cannot be business as usual. FAO has a new strategic framework in which FAO is focusing all the actions needed into 4 pillars of better production, of better nutrition, to have a better environment, and to have a better life. In that sense, in our division, the Plant Production and Protection Division, there is a team, the Seeds and Plant Genetic Resources team, that supports every single aspect of the seed value chain. And among that, we support the strengthening of seed system. We support the adoption of varieties, we support community level seed production, we support basic seed production in projects all around the world. And among that, we support the strengthening of the quality assurance. And here is where the contact with ISTA begins, because we support, and we mention, and we promote all the ISTA methodologies for that. The team also assists member nations in reviewing the existing regulation, to develop new ones, and to do policy dialogue. And in that, also, FAO brings to the attention of our member nations the methodologies that ISTA has developed. We do write, when we are requested to write a seed law proposal or a regulatory document of a seed legislation, and the ISTA methodology will be applied. FAO also has a humanitarian intervention system to mitigate man-made or natural-made disasters. In that sense, seed is distributed all over the world, and once again, quality control needs to be done, and once again, we bring to the attention of all those interventions the ISTA methodology. For all the work that I mentioned, we count on tools, some related to planting materials, some related to quality declaration system, some related to policy formulation. We have tools for every single aspect of the seed value chain, and we have tools that we have developed together with ISTA, and I'm going to show that in the next slides. In wrap up, we assist member nations to review existing regulations, in which we mention the work that ISTA does in setting up the standards for seed testing. Same for policy dialogue with member countries, same for regulatory documents. We do publications together, we do webinars as we are doing today, we do conferences, we do training in seed testing laboratories together with ISTA experts, and we are actually today planning a regional workshop for 2025 to be done jointly FAO ISTA, and that will be announced soon. Let me focus on our latest publication, the Guidelines for Establishment and Management of Seed Testing Laboratories. That is a publication that is being used by laboratories in the world. It has all the items that are described in the slide, and this is our latest publication. But not only that, when FAO did the Global Conference on Green Development of Seed Industry in 2021 with more than 2,000 participants. It was done with a very strong support from ISTA. And also we held this previous webinar on seed testing, on new technologies for seed testing with more than 700 participants from more than 90 countries in October last year. This is just to mention that there's a line, is a continuum of actions and activities being developed together between ISTA and FAO, and we really hope that that will continue for a long time. And having finished my presentation, thank you very much. I pass the floor to Andreas.
Thank you very much, Wilson. I would like to remind everybody, if you have questions to the presentations, please do not hesitate to put them in the question box, and we will have a look at them later. Thank you to that. And now I would like to hand over to Bert van Duyn. Bert is with ISTA also for a number of years, and he is currently also the chair of the Advanced Technology Committee. He's from the Netherlands, and as you can see here, also professor at Leiden University and works at Phytogra. Bert, the floor is yours. Bert, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, so now I'm unmuted. So thank you very much. As we already had some nice introductions about what ISTA is working on with respect to new technologies, I would like to go a little bit more into what we can expect in the coming years of new technologies that what we see appearing every day at a rather high speed. So we have, of course, many drivers for changing the technologies and for the development of new technologies. And as was said, these are not only the technical and scientific possibilities, but maybe even more important are the drivers caused by changing economical conditions, changing environmental conditions, and changing the food needs in the world and the world population health status that force us to have better seeds all the time to be able to grow the crops in all the changing conditions that we're facing today. So when we look at the developments in seed testing, then I think the highest impact on the shaping of the future of seed testing will come from the mathematical modeling. We hear a lot about this in the terms of artificial intelligence. So very clearly this will have the highest impact on seed testing in the near future. But this can only be done when we have advancements in reliable and sufficient data collection, data on seeds. And these data should come from molecular technologies, imaging technologies, but also from the seed production parameters. So the genetic background of the seeds, the production parameters that were derived from the seed production, climate conditions, etc. So we need a lot of reliable data about the seeds to be able to use this mathematical modeling, artificial intelligence. So when we look, for instance, at the molecular technologies, there's a lot of expectations that this will play a bigger and bigger role. And so we're talking about genetic, but also epigenetic markers, gene expression, protein markers. We're talking about barcoding for species identification, not only of seeds, but also of insects and pathogens. And we're going rapidly into the situation that whole genome sequencing will be done in seed testing stations. So when we look at the whole genome sequencing, so if we compare, for instance, the sequencing of the whole human genome, now it only takes 5 hours to do a complete sequencing. And in 1990, this took 110,000 hours to do. So in this 30 years, the speed increased immensely, but also the costs were reduced 3 million times in this period. So it's within reach to do whole genome sequencing also in seed testing. So another important technology that will no doubt be introduced in combination with artificial intelligence are photonics technologies. So technologies based on light, and one special example, of course, is the image analysis or multispectral image analysis, where different wavelengths are used to make pictures of seeds. So when you look at the use of photonics in agriculture today, so we see that a lot of different photonics technologies, both imaging and non-imaging based technologies, are used in plant cultivation, in product quality control, but also in the processing and packaging and the distribution. In all these areas, we see the use of photonics technologies. And of course, also in seed testing, this is an important part. So I'd like to give you just one example of how this can be applied. And the special strength, of course, of artificial intelligence is to combine information from different sources. So here I give you an example where we use a multi-photonic sensor system where you generate data with different sensors, you combine them, and then you use this information to do a prediction about the quality aspect of a seed. So in this case, we use the delayed luminescence, the UV and visible spectrum image analysis, the near infrared, and the Raman spectroscopy measurements. They're all combined to fit into one picture. So we make the puzzle complete by using 4 different photonic sensor systems. And what you can see then is that actually, when we use the information from just one of these technologies, we get more or less good prediction. But if we combine the information from the 4 sensors, we can see the prediction is much better, and we reach over 90% right correlation. So the combination of these sensors, of course, is based on looking on different aspects of the same system. And when you, for instance, look at the photosynthetic system, so with the delayed luminescence, you actually look at the intermolecular network structure of the chloroplast. And you look with the UV visible light spectrum, the metal ions in the reaction center of the biomolecules. The near infrared detects the CH and the OH bonds in the molecules, and the Raman spectroscopy, they look at the CC and C double bonds in the backbone of the molecule. So with the different sensor systems, you look at different aspects of the same structure or the same molecule, and adding this all together, you can have a much better prediction of what is going on. So when we apply that to seed testing, so what we see here is the use of these four different photonic sensor systems combined with artificial intelligence set to calculate a model that predicts, in this case, the germination capacity of a horticulture seed tested via the standard ISTA testing method. And you can see that the correlation between the prediction and the ISTA test result is rather good in this case. That doesn't imply that this method immediately is suitable as an ISTA germination test, and that's what Craig told you in the first presentation. There need to be a whole series of validation and verification steps to be able to make it a complete test. So if we look a little bit now at the cycles that are present in applying all these new technologies, especially to have these artificial intelligence systems where you introduce a lot of data that is used to make right predictions about new data, new seed samples. So you see, you have to go around the cycle where you collect data, you do your training, if you make your model, you get new samples analyzed again, and so you have this cycle of improving your model over and over again. What we see here is that there's one step here that involves humans. That's a human labeling, because the data that is put into the system must be true. So you must be sure the type of seed you use indeed is what's on the label. You must be sure that when the seed is counted as germinated, that it's really germinated. So the biggest challenge and the biggest need at this moment is that we need large numbers of correctly classified seeds and seed samples of different qualities for the correct training of all these models. And here ISTA comes in the picture as a reliable and knowledgeable source to be able to check if the data that's going to be used for training all these artificial intelligence models indeed is correct. And ISTA has a big role in ensuring that all these data that is being used for these new technologies is the correct data, and that bias caused by not proper use of data sets will be avoided, and that these systems can be used also in a reliable way and will give similar reliable results as the ISTA tests are given that are in use at the moment. And with this, I would like to thank you.
Thank you very much, Bert. Artificial intelligence will play a much bigger role in the future. I know that you and your committee are working on these things as well. Thank you for introducing us here. We have the last and final presentation coming today from Sebastian Popper. Sebastian was one of the first initiators of Young at ISTA as well, and he is at the University of Hohenheim in Germany, also member of the Advanced Technology Committee, and I would like to hand over to you, Sebastian, for your presentation.
Okay, so thank you, Andreas. Do you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So thank you for the introduction, Andreas, and I want to take up the presentation of Craig at the beginning, but I want to have a more concrete look to advanced technologies through the lens of the ISTA rules. from my point of view, ISTA is also, at the moment, as Greg already mentioned, ISTA already also has in the rule 2 options where you can see that ISTA is open for advanced technology. So Greg already mentioned that we have in the chapter 1 of the ISTA rules that it says that at any time new rules proposals can made which are using new methods or new tools. So in general, we can conclude that at this point the rules are open for advanced technologies. But in addition to this chapter, what was introduced by Greg, I also want to have a closer look to the chapter of moisture determination, because from my point of view, I think we have here already a clear template on how to deal with advanced technologies. So in moisture determination, we have the situation that we have a standard method, namely the oven method, which is used by laboratories all over the world. And here, the chapter of moisture determination in the ISTA rules offer the seed laboratories to use also moisture meters, which can somehow seen also at an advanced technology tool. So, and here we have in this chapter of moisture determination a clear template that is existing and is describing the template how to handle these moisture meters, or we can also say these advanced technologies, and can see how moisture meters have to be standardized, that the result of the moisture meters is equivalent to the oven method. So in general, we can say that the ISTA rules do not prohibit advanced technologies, but we also have to say that the ISTA rules at the moment also do not promote specifically advanced technologies. If you have a look to all the different methods, we can say that there is no single method at the moment in the ISTA rules which is based exclusively on advanced technologies and uses the utilities and the strengths of an advanced technology. In addition, I want also to discuss a little bit more in detail and give you my point of view about the document, which was already mentioned by Greg, namely the technical committee document introducing new technologies equivalent to the human analyst for seed analysis. So from my point of view, the document is focusing on the point that people want to replace human, or want to replace the analyst. And therefore, I see from my point of view also these critical points I have listed up here in the slide, namely what does this mean if you have a detailed look to this document. So for example, replacing the analyst in applying existing methods is about carries a negative connotation for seed testing laboratories employing analysts. So, and we also see this discussion about pros and cons if you are replacing placing workers by machines. And so there's a question also, do we want to have this discussion? And in addition, if you are following the strategies that we want to replace the human by the machine, from my point of view, it's also important to say that it cannot harness the full potential of advanced technologies, because we want only to try to replace existing methods and existing quality parameters, etc. And last but not least, with the idea that the advanced technology simulate human is not the best, from my point of view, the best strategy to introduce advanced technologies in the ISTA rules. So we can conclude from this information that many things are possible at the moment, but many things are also not standardized in the spirit of the ISTA rules. As I mentioned just before, there is no concrete method described in the ISTA rules which is using in advanced technologies. So in the next slide, I want to discuss why out there the need for adaptation is necessary. We see already, also was Bert mentioned, there is a rapid development in seed testing technologies outside the classical ISTA-based seed testing method for certification purposes. So we all know that in the seed industry there are many in-house methods available, which is already applied at the moment and making use of advanced technologies. But somehow we see a gap between what is happening inside the seed companies and what is happening in the rules. And the rules somehow at the moment, from my point of view, did not react on these advanced technologies. So, and advanced technologies in general, I think provide an opportunity to go behind classical parameters. And this means introducing new metrics and new methods that can offer a different and deeper insight into the quality, into the seed quality and the performance. So besides the classical values, what we have at the moment. And and last but not least, also it's important to react on advanced technologies from an ISTA perspective, that staying relevant and maintaining uniformity in seed testing. In general, I see two possible options how to react on these new technologies from the viewpoint of the ISTA rule. So the first option is, as we already heard, that we can adapt existing or improve existing methods by advanced technologies. But however, we see also at the moment that this improvement of existing methods like purity testing or germination testing, this requires an intensive discussion within the ISTA world and also is time consuming. And we see on the other hand that what Bert mentioned in the last presentation, that advanced technologies develop much more faster than the ISTA reacts on the advanced technologies. So and therefore I see a much more better option that we have in the second case, that we can think as a ISTA community and in a broader sense also in the seed community, that we should think about defining new quality parameters which are not at the moment covered by the ISTA rules, but which rely specifically or which base specifically on new technologies. So from my point of view, this approach of option 2 is much more effective and in line with the spirit of times. And also because we want to have an additional parameter, a new parameter besides the classical ones, there is also no need for the validation by comparison analysts, results of an analyst and results of a machine. And if we would also follow this approach, we can also see, or from my point of view, it would also give stimulation to the development of advanced technologies producer. And now the question, how can this option 2 look like if we are thinking about the rules? And here is an example in the next slide given what advanced technologies are giving in the germination, in the frame of germination testing. So we all know that a classical germination test is based on differentiation between normals and abnormal seedlings. On the other hand, we also see that advanced technologies have an issue, or it's very hard for advanced technologies to do this differentiation between these two seedling groups. But there are at the moment many advanced technologies on the market, commercial products, which easily can record and analyzing a germination curve. And the classical germination curve is somehow basis for having very much different viewpoints on the germination quality. And here I would just propose one example, that if you are using such an advanced technologies for recording a germination curve, that we can also have at the end something like, I call it here the germination efficiency time. The example here in the graph, you see if you take up the a threshold of 92% as a commercial seed certification standard, and we are reporting this after the germination seed after 4.2 days. So it's very important to say that this newly developed parameter would not be a classical rigor test, and it would also not be equivalent to a germination test. It's a new additional parameter what I here propose. And because it's easy and highly automatical potential, it could become an attractive alternative to classical existing parameters. And as I just mentioned, many systems are available. To giving a conclusion to the talk and my final thoughts, as I mentioned first, we all know that there is a highly developing process of advanced technologies in the development. And from my point, it's essential to react on these developments and also to make the ISTA rules fit for the future by taking up these advanced technologies in the rules. Adapting existing methods, from my point of view, is not an ideal case because it's open, it's connected with a long discussion and takes a lot of time. And from my point of view, it's an option too. What I presented, it's much more a better option. But however, this needs to start a discussion with stakeholders of the seed certification system, like OECD, and the seed certification system is needed, that we can identify new parameters besides the classical ISTA ones, which are existing at the moment in the rules, and that these new parameters are recognition in the context of seed certification systems. And with this more or less proactive approach to creating a new method, or we can also say a new ISTA chapter based on the specific strengths of an advanced technology, will allow ISTA to maintain its leadership and role on standardization of the seed testing methods. And that's the end. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sebastian. That was a very interesting presentation. Actually, 4 interesting presentations. I would like to ask you, would have liked to ask all of you a few questions from the audience, but beside technical questions, we did not receive any. Either you made it very clear or it's so unclear that nobody is daring to ask questions. But I think you made it very clear to everybody, and I would like to thank all of you, and you can all come up again on the screen with your camera on. So thank you very much. What I would like to remind everybody on is that in 3 weeks, on Wednesday, August 28, when there's the next centenary webinar of ISTA, same time, 3 p.m. CEST. The topic is quality assurance ISTA auditors. Thank you very much to all of you for participation. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Wilson, Bert, and Sebastian, for the very good presentations. Thank you very much. And I'd like to remind everybody that this is a recorded session and will be available on the ISTA YouTube channel where you can subscribe. Thanks a lot and have a nice day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Thank you. Goodbye.